In Wisconsin, the Democratic primary battle for governor of that state took a dramatic new turn just 2 weeks before the August 11th primary election. The state's former lieutenant governor, Mandela Barnes, abruptly dropped out of the race yesterday. His decision came as the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel continued reporting on allegations that he used his position to pursue sexual relationships with young adult women. Wisconsin's Democratic Party reviewed an anonymous letter that detailed the allegations. But according to people familiar with the matter cited by the Washington Post, it concluded the claims were too vague to substantiate and didn't pursue the matter further. MS Now did not independently review the allegations, and a campaign spokesperson for Barnes denied any misconduct, saying this in a statement: "There are no allegations of misconduct or wrongdoing against Mandela." Barnes announced his decision to quit the race in a video on social media. He did not formally endorse another candidate, but said it's now clear who the nominee will be. With Barnes out of the race, all implications point to the nominee being State Representative Francesca Hong, a Democratic socialist who has been leading in recent polling. And that's part of this. There were, these stories and allegations seemingly sprung to the surface, but also Barnes was trailing pretty significantly in the polls. And speaking of Democratic socialists, later this morning, the Democratic Socialists of America, DSA, will kick off its national organizing conference in Chicago. And the Windy City is where we find MS Now senior Washington reporter and co-host of The Weekend, Eugene Daniels. Eugene, great to see you. Tell us more about this DSA summit. It's certainly a party in the news right now. What are they hoping to accomplish?
Mm-hmm. There will be about 900 people here is what the organizers say. And what's interesting is for folks who are expecting kind of like a DNC convention, it's going to be much more like a rules convention, rules summit that they have, a rules meeting where they're sitting around. They're going to be talking about a lot of different organizing capabilities or have a skill set meeting. They have some of these meetings that I'm looking at right here, winning socialism in the South on Saturday, legislating as socialists and municipal socialism. So it's all about kind of figuring out how to take the ideas that they spout and turn those into some kind of action. And one of the things that's really interesting here is I haven't run into anyone this morning, but when I got in at like 12 a.m. last night, in the lobby, there were a lot of people. So there's a lot of excitement here. The biggest question is whether or not they see themselves as part of the Democratic Party, like insurgents within the party, or a separate apparatus altogether. Because when they run not as DSA, they run as Democrats.
So, Rev, I mean, the DSA is certainly had some real successes in some rates here in New York. We've had some success in Colorado. They seem to be on the brink of the Democratic nominee for the governor's race in Wisconsin. Some, though, in the party, other Democrats worry they're too lefty, they're too progressive, and that's too easily, sort of attacked by Republicans trying to paint us all with the same brush. The answer here is, well, the party should be big enough, the tent should be big enough for everybody, but it's a real concern.
It's a real concern, and there's even concern now that as they rise in popularity, they will rise in scrutiny of who is really running the DSA and how diverse it is. One of the things that, Eugene, I would be interested in you looking at as they go through this is how diverse is the gathering, because there's a charge now that's coming from many in the civil rights community that there's not a lot of diversity at the top of DSA, and that it's a lot of people that are left, but they have not necessarily shown that they have put Latinos and blacks in positions of power while they attack those office holders. Are you seeing any early signs of diversity, or can you look at that as you observe this gathering today?
Yeah, I definitely will be looking at that, because at the end of the day, we both know, and Lemire knows, that the Democratic Party is the foundation of it is black voters and older black voters. And so if you are a group of folks that want to kind of make sure your ideas are at the forefront of where the party is, you want to push the party further to the left, you kind of have to look like the party. You can't look like an invading force. And that's one of the things that I have talked to black civil rights leaders, including you, over the years, is what does that actually look like? I think one of the things that's really interesting, I talked talked to Zoran Mamdani, the most famous, probably Democratic socialist, at least in this country. And what he told me earlier this year was that the best way for Democratic socialists to gain more power was to actually win and then deliver. He feels like he is doing that in New York City. But then also I asked him about the diversity problem. And he said, you can do both. You can both talk about the economic issues and talk about all of the ways in which they're exacerbated by the racism in this country. And that's something that, Bernie Sanders was not talking about in 2016 and 2020. And so there is a different way that they want to talk about these things. I will also say, if you're expecting the Brad Landers or Zoran Mamdanis of the world to be here, they are not. Chris Rabb out of Pennsylvania is here. But it is going to be kind of a family conversation, which we are very interested in getting into.
Live in Chicago, MS Now senior Washington reporter Eugene Daniels. Eugene, thank you.